friends, Amanda here with you again today, and today we're going to make this really adorable Pooh card with Winnie the Pooh inside the jar licking all the honey. Isn't he so cute? What you're going to need for this card is the Scalloped Rectangles die for your frame, the large honey pot, and we're going to be using this die and this die, these two right here. Hold On Tight, Winnie the Pooh set. And for the sentiment, oh bother. A little bit of honey, a little honey, and a lot of love. For the distress inks, we're using Fossilized Amber, Scattered Straw, Wild Honey, Worn Lipstick, Tumbled Glass, Blacksoot, and Vintage Photo. You're also going to need a splatter brush or a brush that will create splatters on a watercolor background, along with paintbrushes, water, a spritz bottle, and some foam tape. This is on an A2 top fold card, and I'm excited to share with you how I've created it. Oh, sorry. I almost forgot. We also use this honey. Let's get started and create this really fun, unique way that Winnie the Pooh is inside the jar. So I've taken the large honey pot die and I've die cut it out with Bristol Smooth watercolor cardstock. And using my Misty, I'm just going to stamp that adorable little Pooh with antique linen distress ink. Antique linen is one of my favorite ways to use for no-line watercoloring. So that is what I'm using here. And I'm going to brush off just the very bottom of him because I want him to look like he's sitting in the honey. So I don't want there to be any lines there. So just using my finger, I can wipe that right off and you won't even tell. Just like that. Perfect. See? No line. I'm going to add the bumblebees that come in this adorable set. There are 3 of them, and they're very sticky, and they did not want to leave my finger. And just using the same antique linen, I'm going to ink them up, and I wanted them to be around him like they're just really questioning why he took all of the honey. And here are the distress inks that I'm going to be using. From lightest to darkest, I used Scattered Straw, Fossilized Amber, and Wild Honey. And those are for the Pooh and the honey, along with Vintage Photo. Vintage Photo is what I use to really kind of make things pop out. So first is Scattered Straw, and I completely saturate Pooh with all of the Scattered Straw color, so I don't have to really worry about shading just yet. I'm just really focusing on getting all of that scattered straw all over his body, and then we're going to go in with the next color, which is Fossilized Amber. Allowing the honey for him to sit in is going to make him look like he's just really in there, enjoying his time, having a good lick of the honey, so to speak. All right. Now I'm coming in with that Fossilized Amber. And I'm going in where his body will be touching other parts of his body. So you get that shaded effect and then making things stand out more. So rounding out his ears, underneath his head, even the top of his head where his eyebrows are or his forehead. And then just dragging the color out. still giving him all the shading and leaving some highlights, like just the tops of his arms or the very tips of his ears, just to make those so he doesn't look like he's flat, giving him a little bit of dimension. Giving him his belly shape and his torso. And then the very bottoms of his legs, obviously the honey's going to go down there, so we're not going to be too worried about a lot of shading, but there will be some shading because we want him to look rounded. Now doing the same with the bees, just going in with I went in right away with Fossilized Amber. Again, they're very small detail. We don't have to worry too much about giving them a ton of shading. They're really not the star of the show. The star of the show is Winnie the Pooh and eating all of his honey. So I'm going to add in just a little bit more of the Fossilized Amber and giving him more of a base, and then we're going to start building up that honey at the very bottom. His cheeks are the worn lipstick color, and I'm going to let it dry just slightly so that I can add some more on top to give him more depth in his cheeks. And here we are, placing down the scattered straw, then the Fossilized Amber, then I come in with wild honey and a touch of vintage photo. When placing the honey down around the Pooh Bear, I want to make sure that I go past a certain point so that it looks like he's really sitting in it. Otherwise, it's just gonna look kind of funny. So I'm making sure that I go up past his foot so that it really looks like it's a lot of honey in there that he's just licking up. And then going up the sides of the honey pot itself will make it look like it kind of drizzled down. Giving some of those little puddle lines inside the jar surrounding Winnie the Pooh, and then adding some of the shading right around the base of him like you would to ground an image. And now the wild honey, I'm just dragging out some of that vintage photo, give it some more shading. And then we're going to go up the side of the jar with lightest to darkest. And you don't see me, but I'm rinsing off my brush each time and then grabbing some more color. I wanted to really showcase Winnie the Pooh, so I made sure that I didn't have all of that other busy work in there. Taking some vintage photo, just giving him some more shading in certain places. Again, I don't want too much because I don't want him to look like a brown bear, but I do want to have that dimension. So adding in the darkest of the colors, which is the vintage photo, will achieve that look. I know I turn my paper a lot when I'm watercoloring, so I'm really sorry. I'll try to be better at that, but I get into the groove and I forget what I'm doing. So, all right, I'm adding wild honey to his little paws there for the honey to dripping down that he's eating. And I'm also going to add it to his little snout, and just kind of going over just where I think it would probably lay the best. And I do add a little bit of vintage photo in there, and then the white highlights will make it really look shiny. So just adding it in and dripping it down like it would. And here's where I go back in with the worn lipstick just to kind of layer up that color to give it more depth. I wanted to make sure it was good and dry before I went ahead and did that. And then I take my very damp brush and just go over it again to smooth out that color break so it blends nicely. I'm going in with a little bit more of the Fossilized Amber to give it some more shading and to kind of drag it down a little bit more. Unfortunately, my recording device dies, so we do not see me put on the eyeballs, the black lines of the bees, and the nose. I'm super sorry, along with the tumbled glass around the inside of the jar. It's very light, it's just a wash. You'll kind of see what a wash looks like with the honey that's dripping down on the top of the pot when I get to that die cut. So sorry about that. Glad I caught it when I did. That would have really been a bummer. Adding in those white highlights here and there to the honey, to the Winnie the Pooh and his little features, giving him some shine, and to the pot itself. All right, so we've die cut out the larger part of the pot in white, and with this honey along with the jar inside where Pooh is, it is die cut out of Bristol Smooth watercolor cardstock, and using Fossilized Amber, Scattered Straw, and Vintage Photo, I'm just going to kind of wash it over. The lower parts is where I'm going to be focusing my shading and dragging up the color to get a nice little blend. I hope you're enjoying this watercolor tutorial. If you are, do drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think. If you guys plan on trying this technique and sharing it in the La La Land Crafts Facebook group page, that would be awesome. Make sure you tag me so I can go love on your projects. There have been so many amazing projects with this new release. Here I am adding the Vintage Photo just lightly. And then we will also be adding white highlights after this dries. Okay, we're going to glue down our watercolored image to the larger part of the pot. Just really centering that in there. And then we will add the honey that we just got done watercoloring to the very top of the jar. Just like that. Perfect. Using the Scalloped Rectangles die along with the Bristol Smooth Watercolor cardstock, we're going to push down some ink right there on our glass mat, and with our spray bottle we're just gonna tap it down so we kind of get this watercolory swirly effect. I'm using a heat gun to dry it off, and then I will do it a second time to get those watercolor or the color breaks, some more definition and splatters kind of feel. Heat drying it again, and then we're going to go in with the wild honey and do the same thing. Just tapping it down, just getting some variations in colors. I'm going to dry it again, and then I'm going to tap on some vintage photo off to the side, and using the splatter brush, I'm going to go off camera, get my brush wet, and splatter it on there. I'm going to get the sentiment, a little honey and a lot of love, and using Memento Tuxedo Black ink, I'm just going to stamp it on there, and this card is just about finished. I want to make sure that that dries, so I set it aside for just a few minutes, and I'm going to glue it down on my A2 top folding card. It turned out so adorable. I turned it over so that I make sure I don't smear anything, and just bone folding it down, make sure I got a good seal on everything. Using some foam tape, I'm going to pop up this little Pooh in his jar with his little bee friends, who are very curious as to why he's eating their food. And there you go. I hope you guys had a great time watching me watercolor, and do come again. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.